Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the John Campea Show here on my YouTube channel. I am, of course, your host, John Campea, and it is an honor and a privilege, as it is every day, to have you guys joining me here as we talk about our favorite things in the world, movies and movie news. We've got a whole bunch of stuff to talk about today. We got some Ready Player One reactions, also some reactions from A Quiet Place. Should the DCEU continue to use Darkseid? We've got our first installment of what we're watching with you guys sending in video messages, a whole bunch of stuff to go into and cover today. But before we dive into the main topics, I want to make sure that if you watch the John Campea Show, you guys are all caught up to date with everything significant going on in the world of movies and entertainment. And that's why we put together this little segment we simply call the Movie News Feed. Here, check this out. First up, the upcoming HBO documentary Andre the Giant released a new trailer this weekend. The documentary is a co-production of HBO Sports, WWE, and Bill Simmons Media Group. WWE Chairman Vince McMahon said the following: "For more than 20 years, Andre the Giant's larger-than-life personality and unique charisma captured the imagination of fans around the world. I will always value our friendship and am proud to tell the story of the eighth wonder of the world." The film contains interviews with athletes and filmmakers who all knew Andre. Andre the Giant debuts on HBO on April 10th. And you know, as a kid growing up watching wrestling, and that one of the most beloved films of all time, The Princess Bride, Andre the Giant always had a very special place in my heart, and I, for one, am very excited to see this HBO film. Next up, an authorized documentary on the life of Whitney Houston, simply titled Whitney, will be hitting theaters this summer. According to Vulture, Whitney has the blessing of Houston's estate and will feature unseen footage of home movies and live performances, along with previously unreleased versions of some of her songs. The film's director, Kevin McDonald, said the following: "I approach Whitney's life like a mystery story. Why did someone with so much raw talent and beauty self-destruct so publicly and painfully? I was lucky enough to have the support of Pat Houston and the Whitney Houston estate on this quest." Whitney is scheduled to hit theaters on July 6th. And you know, growing up listening to Whitney Houston's music, she was an absolute music powerhouse. She ruled the world of music when I was growing up. And I remember her death just shocked everybody. It's going to be interesting to see the type of story they tell here. Next up, things for Black Panther just keep rolling at the box office, and The King of Wakanda not only crossed the symbolic $1 billion mark, but also finally opened in China with an opening of $67 million. The movie currently sits at just below $1.1 billion worldwide and took the #1 spot at the box office again this past weekend for the 4th week in a row. You know, it's hard to imagine this movie doing as well as it did, and it just seemed like 3 or 4 months ago, a lot of us, myself included, never thought it would cross the $1 billion mark, and yet here we are. Next up, Academy Award-winning actor Michael Caine, who won an Oscar for his role in Woody Allen's film Hannah and Her Sisters, has now gone on record to say he will no longer work with Allen following the allegations from his stepdaughter of sexual assault. Caine said the following: "I can't come to terms with the allegations because I loved Woody and had a wonderful time with him. I even introduced him to Mia Farrow. I don't regret working with him, which I did in complete innocence, but I wouldn't work with him again. No." Michael Caine, of course, is one of the most celebrated actors in the business today, and it's really encouraging to see him taking a stand and saying, "I won't work with people who assaulted kids." And finally, if you're looking for someone to be excited for the idea of Jesse Eisenberg possibly returning to play Lex Luthor again, look no further than Jesse Eisenberg. The actor recently commented on the idea of coming back as Lex Luthor, saying the following: "I hope so. I mean, I have no idea is the truth. I love playing the character. Probably in terms of movie acting, it's the most enjoyable character I've had the opportunity to play. So I would love to do it again. But I don't know what their slate is. If you have any pull, please use it." Eisenberg's portrayal as Luthor was almost universally panned by fans and critics. However, he still appeared at the end of Justice League in a cameo with Deathstroke. And look, while almost everybody hated him in Batman vs. Superman, I'm one of the few people who I actually appreciated this new incarnation of Lex Luthor that he brought. Yes, it went a little overboard sometimes, but generally I liked it. And that'll do it for today's installment of the Movie News Feed. All right, and now you are all caught up to date with the significant stuff going on in the world of movie news. Now, with that out of the way, it's time to get to our main topics, which are topics that you guys sent in to me. How do you get a topic or a question on the John Campea Show? It's real simple. Just email me anytime, john@thejohncampeashow.com. Put the word topic in the subject line, and as always, guys, keep those emails to 90 words or less. All right, let's get on now to the first email of the day. And the first email today comes to us from Jesse Hayman. And Jesse Hayman writes in, "My friends and I love your show." Well, thank you so much, Jesse. "Should the DCEU stay the course with using Darkseid as the big bad they are currently building up for after Infinity War happens? I'm one of those who thought because we've had the Avengers movie, most of the plot beats in Justice League just felt very routine and quote-unquote done before. What do you think?" All right, thanks a lot for the question, Jesse. And look, if you're trying to suggest that there are similarities between, things we've seen in Avengers and then things we saw in Justice League, if you're trying to suggest there are similarities between Thanos and Darkseid and all that kind of stuff, well then sure, yes, there are similarities. Absolutely there are. In Avengers, we had the Chitauri, who are the cannon fodder for the Avengers to beat up. In Justice League, we had the Parademons, which are the cannon fodder for the Justice League to beat up. But these are all things that have been around a very, very, very long time in comics. And more importantly, these types of things have been around in movies long before Marvel or DC ever did them. So these are some rather common go-to tools in the toolbox for filmmakers. The question isn't, has it been done before? The question is, are you going to use it really well in your movie in such a way that it enhances the movie? Like when you're talking to a carpenter, yeah, okay, that carpenter uses a hammer. Are you going to use a hammer too? Be original. No, it's not about whether or not they use a hammer. It's about how do they use the hammer to make the product they're making. And who knows what Justice League and the DCU have in store for Darkseid and what they want to do with him. Look, you guys know what I think. Warner Brothers should reboot the DCEU. Start fresh. It's just the best way to get ahead, I think, at this point. And I think it gives them the greatest chance and opportunity for success. However, if they don't want to do that, which is beyond me why they wouldn't do that, but if they don't want to do that, then I don't see why you'd stray the course from Darkseid. You've clearly been moving towards Darkseid. Darkseid is a very popular villain in the DC universe. He's a very powerful adversary. He's somebody who can, present a threat to the Justice League. The one thing about Steppenwolf in the first Justice League movie was that he really was no match for the Justice League, especially once Superman showed up. Because Superman showed up and Superman just bitch slapped Steppenwolf, easily, no sweat whatsoever. He even just shows back up. Superman flies away to save some people, comes back, goes, "Oh, is this guy still here?" Just slap him around. I mean, he was no match for them. So that kind of took away a little bit from the tension of it, just because Superman could bitch him so easily. Whereas Darkseid, that's not going to be the case. So can you find similarities? Sure you can, but those similarities have been around not only in the comics forever, but in movies forever. It's all a matter of, do they use it in an effective way that makes a better movie? That's the question we need to ask. And if that's the question we're asking, and they don't want to reboot, then I think Darkseid offers a really good spoil for the Justice League. I think he provides a great opportunity to do that. So I don't see why, if they're not rebooting, why DC or Warner Brothers would deviate away from Darkseid. I really don't. Again, are you in danger of drawing some comparisons with Thanos? Maybe a little bit, but really, I think other than the fact that they have some really mean faces and square jaws, I think they're going to be portrayed in such a way that they're very different characters from each other. So I, for one, am not too worried about that. I think they should stay the course if they're not rebooting and stick with the Darkseid thing. And I don't see any reason really why they would deviate from that. All right, thanks a lot for the question, man. Let's move on now to email number 2. And the second email today comes to us from Keerat, who writes, "Hey John, love the show. Thank you so much. With A Quiet Place building some decent buzz, do you think it might reach Get Out level? Oscar buzz and all that glory. Keep up the good work." Well, you guys know that one of the films I have really been looking forward to is the new John Krasinski directed, and he's starring in it with his wife, Emily Blunt, A Quiet Place. I think the trailers to this have looked fantastic. I've been excited for this movie. I can't wait to watch it. Well, anyway, a couple of days ago, it actually made its premiere at the South by Southwest Film Festival taking place in Austin, Texas right now. And the response to the film has been fantastic. As a matter of fact, let's jump over and get a look at some of the reactions that A Quiet Place has been getting from critics and from the audience. Jacob Knight writes, A Quiet Place, who would have thought John Krasinski had an all-time horror picture? Listen to this, an all-time horror picture in him. One of the best mainstream creature features in years with a wild, pure cinema experimental streak. What a brilliant bit of genre cinema that's equal parts Spielberg and Romero. That's high praise. Our buddy Scott Mance, he writes, A Quiet Place, fantastic horror thriller, brilliantly directed by John Krasinski, really clever and unique, terrifying, riveting, beyond intense, great edge-of-your-seat fun. It's going to be a hit. Emily Blunt is amazing. Then our buddy Eric Davis wrote a couple things here. He said, damn, A Quiet Place is John Krasinski's best film as a director, so brilliantly intense. And that's a theme we're hearing through a lot of these responses is intense, intense, intense. That's something I personally really like to hear. He goes on to say, so brilliantly intense and one of those films that keeps you on the edge of your seat the entire time, literally, just catching my breath. Let's see, next one came to us from Jamie, who writes, A Quiet Place had me jerking in my seat throughout the whole movie. A lot of jumpy moments, incredibly executed performances, and well-crafted story of a family trying to survive. The movie was bananas. It's funny because that's another word I've heard mentioned a few times around was bananas about this thing. All right, then we go on to popular writer Angie Han, who writes, A Quiet Place is incredibly effective. My hands hurt from clenching my fists the whole time. So intense, people were actually screaming. And we're ending things off here with Meredith Borders wrote, holy shit, A Quiet Place is for real. John Krasinski made a horror movie that's wholly original and, by the way, really, really scary. I love hearing this type of stuff. Intense, scary, bananas, monster feature. I really like that a lot too. Now, I think you could be forgiven, because I was part of this too, if during the initial kind of ads for A Quiet Place, you saw similarities between it and Get Out. However, from what we're hearing in these reviews, this is a very different kind of movie than Get Out. This is legit scary. Get Out was a really well done film, but it wasn't trying to be scary per se. Get Out was never trying to be like legit scary. It sounds like A Quiet Place is and does. Intense, terrifying, all that kind of stuff. This is a movie that's had me fascinated from the beginning, and these types of reviews that we're hearing coming out, these reactions we're hearing coming out sound amazing. Obviously, it sounds like A Quiet Place might be the best film at South by Southwest. Segue, or is it? We ask that question as we move on to the next email today. And the next email today comes to us from Janiel Morrison, who writes, Ready Player One comes out at the end of the month. My question, how do you think the movie will do at the box office? I'm not feeling anyone getting all that excited for it, and I'm wondering if it will end up disappointing at the box office. What do you think? All right, well, thanks a lot. Look, another movie coming out here that you guys know I have been incredibly pumped for because it's being directed by Steven Spielberg is Ready Player One. The marketing's been okay. Those 80s style posters they put out were a big miss with people, did not go over well with the general audience, didn't go over all that well with me either, but it was just a poster. They were just a bunch of posters, whatever. I've been excited. Well, last night, Ready Player One made its world premiere at South by Southwest. And if you thought the reactions to A Quiet Place were good, they were very good, but maybe not quite as good as what we got from the reactions of Ready Player One. I'm hearing reported through multiple people that were there that Ready Player One, and these are veterans of the South by Southwest Film Festival, that the ovation at the end of the film was the biggest ovation any film has ever got at the South by Southwest Film Festival. Let's jump over and see some of the reactions that the film got. Starting off with filmmaker Robert Rodriguez, who wrote, Ready Player One is classic Spielberg fun. What a blast. Can't wait to see it again. Rewards repeat viewings. Tons of great references, visuals, and heart. So kick-ass, it blew the speakers. Next one came to us from, of course, one of our favorites, Gray Drake, who wrote, totally engrossed in every second of Ready Player One. It is one of the most technically brilliant things I have ever seen. Spielberg is one of the few directors who could orchestrate this kind of visual symphony that so many people will enjoy. Pretty amazing. Then this video got posted up. I won't play it here, but this video got posted up of the ovation and reaction to the film at the end of it. And Beatrice is the one who posted and said, if this doesn't answer whether people really love Player One, I don't know what will. Then we get back over to Eric Davis. Ready Player One is classic Steven Spielberg. It got the references, the ferocious effects, and the great 80s soundtrack, sure, but also the charm, the heart, the humor, and a fantastic Alan Silvestri score. I loved it, and so did the South by Southwest crowd. Be excited for it. Eric followed that up by writing this. I don't know if I have ever seen a South by Southwest crowd cheer a movie the way they just cheered Ready Player One. We haven't seen this Spielberg in a long time. It's just pure entertainment, and it's hard not to watch without a dorky smile on your face. And then, of course, Eric Vespi writes, so yeah, I loved Ready Player One. It's perhaps the geekiest movie ever made. So happy right now. Eric Kahn writes, Ready Player One feels like Spielberg watched a ton of Luc Besson movies and decided to outdo them. In terms of pure spectacle, it's the most astonishing thing he's ever done. Never underestimate Steve. And we'll end this one off with Scott Weinberg, who writes, Ready Player One is a whole lot of fun. Those who are stuck in pre-release hate mode better prepare to be disappointed. So obviously, I'm pretty happy with what I am hearing coming out of Southwest. Now, just to be clear, I was not there. I'm not in Austin. I'm in Burbank right now. So I have not seen the film yet. I'm going to see it shortly. But I'm loving the responses. It seems to be across the board, both from the audience at South by Southwest and, of course, the critics are just raving over it. Hearing things like the most technically advanced thing they've ever seen. Really? You've seen Jungle Book? And you're saying that's... I mean, I don't know. All I know is that my pulse is climbing. My pulse is climbing because I'm getting so ridiculously excited for this movie. It's crazy. And hearing these responses are incredible. I wish, though, that they found some way to market the film better. And I don't know, maybe I'll watch this movie and I'll go, gosh, damn, I don't know how you market this movie any better. Maybe it's a very difficult film to put trailer packages together for. I'm not sure. But I don't think the marketing is winning over the audience yet. They might have to now go full court press on pushing word of mouth and pushing the audience reactions. Make a commercial out of that standing ovation that it got. Make a commercial with the quotes that are coming out and the reactions that we're getting publicly from people right now. Maybe they need to do that to get things rolling for the marketing, because right now the marketing is kind of sputtered. And I hope they can market it. So getting back to the main question, how will it do financially? If they can actually capitalize and take advantage of this huge word of mouth they got going right now and this huge positive buzz, you could see Ready Player One, which I thought was going to open to 30 to 35 million. If they can really capitalize on this positive word of mouth, 60 isn't out of the question. 60 million won't be out of the question. So, but we'll just see how well they're able to take advantage of all this once things get rolling. All right, guys, that will do it for the emailed in questions of the day. Now, of course, I'm going to be taking your live questions here closer to the end of the show. But before we get to those live questions, I, of course, announced last week that I have now, for the next month or so, taken on a sponsor of Stardust, the app. And you guys know I've turned down a lot of sponsors, but Stardust app is something I have really enjoyed using, and I think it's great for the film fan community. It's a place where you can record your own 3 to 30 second quick reactions and responses to TV shows, trailers, and movies, put them online. And if you want, I've been telling you guys, you can tag me at John Campea. Make sure you're following me on Stardust as well, at John Campea. You can tag me on these things, and then I would pick out a couple of times a week some of my favorite reactions and responses and share them here in a little segment that we're starting now. We're going to do this about twice a week called What We're Watching, where you guys tell everybody else what you're recommending and what you're responding to. So here's our first installment of What We're Watching. Check this out.
Kind of sad of hearing about all the story issues that A Wrinkle in Time has, but I'm still very interested in seeing the performances, especially from Storm Reid and Chris Pine, because the father-daughter relationship always gets me in like every movie, ever since The Little Mermaid, and I can't handle it. But I'm super interested in still seeing at least the visuals, so I'm gonna take my boys to see it. Hopefully we'll like it enough.
Okay, Kinetic Fox, and congratulations on being the first person to send one of these videos into me. Yeah, I'm one of the people who am telling you that Wrinkle in Time has story problems. Overall, the movie didn't really work for me. However, if what you're looking for is that great father-daughter dynamic between, like, our main couple of characters here, Chris Pine playing the dad, it's there.
Hi guys. Yes, I've watched Black Panther a couple of times now, and I really enjoy the film. You know, it's got an excellent story, fantastic action. But what I'm increasingly appreciating is the attention to detail in the costumes produced by Ruthie Carter, who did a phenomenal job.
Thanks for the comment, Styler. And listen, that out of all the praise and glory that Black Panther is getting right now, and it deserves almost all of it, the one thing a lot of people are overlooking is the terrific costume design that you're pointing out. And I'm not just talking about Black Panther's costume. Sure, it looks great, absolutely. But it's the Wakandan culture. As you're walking around the town, it's not just average everyday people wearing their clothes, and you got different levels of people. You got the scientists who wear some kinds of clothes, you got the council wearing their clothes, you got the warriors wearing their clothes, and everything just looks so good that it completely immerses you into the movie, and a big part of that is the costuming, and I'm so glad you mentioned it.
Oh, what's up, guys? So John Campea finally joined us here on Stardust. So in honor of that, I'm going to react to one of his favorite movies and one of my favorite movies, Mystery Man. This movie's so fun. If you haven't seen it, you need to check it out. If they're going to do a sequel to any of these older movies, this is the one. In today's superhero world, it would just do so much better. It was kind of before its time. It wasn't super popular when it came out. I loved it. Ben Stiller's in it. He's hilarious, and this is one of my favorite movies from him. Check it out. It's a good time.
Thank you, Rad Dad, and thank you for adding to the voices championing Mystery Men. Look, this is a movie, you guys have heard me talk about this, that was just simply ahead of its time. If it came out today, it might be lauded as like one of the greatest comedies ever, but it came out before the golden age of superhero movies, man. If you go back and watch it now, I am convinced you will get just as much out of it as I did the first time I saw it. A lot of people always ask me, what's the one movie they never did a sequel for that you wish they did a sequel to? And my answer is always, first and foremost, Mystery Men, followed by Megaforce, but yes, Mystery Men.
So just watched the new trailer for The Grinch, and this movie looks really bad. It looks really, really stupid. The Dr. Seuss movies that they've made have not been good so far, and I know there's a lot of people out there who love the original Grinch with Jim Carrey. I personally don't think it's that good, and you know, the Lorax were near the Who, none of them have been that great. And this one just looks bad. The animation was nice, I'll give them that. The animation looks good.
Thanks so much, Ross the Boss. And you know what? I'm also kind of with you in the sense that I'm not really sure what to make of the Grinch movie. You're right, though. The animation looks crisp, it looks sharp. I love the design. It's very faithful to that whole Whoville kind of feel to it. It looks great. My biggest question mark is not going to be the pop culture references or anything like that. My biggest question mark going into it is, was Benedict Cumberbatch really the right choice to do the voice? The voice just isn't there, and I'm a big Benedict fan, huge. But I'm just wondering, and after watching this trailer, my question marks about him as the voice still kind of remain, even though he's a remarkably talented dude. But I gotta admit, when he goes into the grocery store and stuff like that, and the top shelf stuff, that stuff kind of worked for me, but I'm not completely on board with this yet. I still have some question marks. Let's see how it turns out.
Yo, John, big Eagles fan here from Washington, D.C. Just want to say I saw that Christopher Robin trailer. You were right, it was magical. Brought me back to my childhood. So glad Jim Cummings is black to voice Pooh. Once I showed it to my brother, he got his Pooh stuffed animal right away and said he's bringing it to the premiere. It should be fun.
That Christopher Robin trailer, it had the heartstrings being pulled. And that moment, and I've mentioned this on the show before, but that moment, as Ewan McGregor's sitting there, and he hears the voice behind him, and he turns around, and personally, I was very curious how they would make Winnie the Pooh look, and I'm happy with it. I like the way he looks. I know some people don't, that's fine. I do. But as he starts talking to Pooh, he's like, Pooh, like there's something about the heartstrings getting pulled. And he said, I think I've cracked. He goes, I don't see any cracks, a few wrinkles maybe. Touches his face. It's like, oh my God. I mentioned on my social media the other day that the only thing I think I would have liked more is this exact same movie and this exact same trailer except instead of Winnie the Pooh, it's Calvin and Hobbes. That what might even make it a little bit better for me. But yeah, man, this trailer was magic to me. I absolutely loved it. Anyway, guys, that will do it for this first installment of what we're watching. Thank you to all you guys who participated. Now, let's get back to the show. All right, guys, and that's what we're watching. I love being able to do this. You know, I've been trying for some time to find good ways to bring you guys and your questions and your comments in on video. This just makes it a whole hell of a lot easier. So I'm going to do this segment like maybe about twice a week. So look in the description of this video. You'll find the download link for Stardust. It's free. It's super easy to use. And just remember, if you want something to maybe pop up on the show, make sure you tag me at John Campea. Make sure you're following me on Stardust at John Campea as well. And the segment will be back again in a couple of days. I really enjoy that a lot, to be honest. All right, with that out of the way, we got about 10 minutes left in the show. So let's go over to your live questions. You guys have been watching live. You've been firing in some questions here. So let's get over and see what it is you guys are wanting to talk about. And the first question in here today comes to us from Benny95, who writes, have you seen the leaked photos from the Avengers Infinity War Part 2? Well, remember, it's not Infinity War Part 2. It's actually Avengers 4, but whatever. Theories of time travel back to the first Avengers movie. Thoughts? My guess, to prevent Loki and Thor from leaving Earth to Tesseract. Well, remember, that's just a theory. And it's always dangerous to put together theories based on out-of-context, leaked behind-the-scenes photos or set photos. And I always go back to remember, I can't remember the name of the actor. I'm forgetting the name of the actor. But remember when those set photos leaked from Batman versus Superman, and it had the actor just standing there with green from about his ankles to his knees, the green socks. And everybody started saying, oh, that's the Flash. The Flash is going to be in Batman versus Superman because he's got green on his legs. And it's like, why would the Flash have green on his legs? And why would it only be from his ankles to his knees? But anyway, we took that. Everybody started forming these theories of this from this leaked picture without any context whatsoever. And websites started to run, The Flash confirmed for Batman versus Superman and all this kind of stuff. And what it was the actor who played the guy in the wheelchair, Scoot McNairy. That was the guy's name, the actor's name. He played the guy in the wheelchair. And they just green screened it out so he could green screen out his legs. But taken completely out of context, we, the fan community, created this entire theory around, so that's clearly the Flash because he's got green legs on, and the Flash is going to do this in the movie. He's going to do this. It was all constructed around an out of context, behind the scenes photo that we had no idea what it really meant. So yes, there have been some pictures leaked, and a bunch of people started forming theories based on behind the scenes pictures. But again, we're building theories on completely 100% out of context photos that gives us no indication about what's really going on. So I generally find I try to avoid the speculation revolving around out of context behind the scenes pictures. Unless it shows something blatant and just makes it very clear and obvious, I generally try to stay away from those because I find trying to engage in those things to be a little bit of folly, to be honest with you, man. But yes, I have seen the pictures, and they're available everywhere online. If you want to see them, just look for Avengers 4 set pictures, and you should be able to find them no problem if you want to see them. All right. Thanks a lot for the message, Benny. Next one comes to us from Jacob Leaf, who writes, I hope Jesse Eisenberg comes back to play Lex Luthor. He's my favorite version of the character on film. I love that they tried something different. By the way, I love it when you guys send in live questions that have to do with the stories that we covered. I think that's great. And you know what? I'm not going to say that I loved Jesse Eisenberg's Lex Luthor, but I am one of the few people out there like you, Jacob. I enjoyed his Lex Luthor. Like I said in the movie news feed, did he go over a little bit too much over the top in some places? Yes, I'll grant that. But I always like it when they try something bold and try something different and try something new. And definitely what they did with Jesse Eisenberg's Lex Luthor was outside of the box. We're always screaming at Hollywood, do something new, do something different. So they tried to do something new with the Lex Luthor character, and everybody complained. I understand why, because it didn't work for some people, and that's cool. Nothing wrong with that. But I am like you, Jacob. For me, he worked. I like the Jesse Eisenberg Lex Luthor. Was it perfect? No. Did I have some issues with it? Yes. But generally speaking, I dug it. I did. I was kind of happy to see him pop back up in the post-credit scene of Justice League. So, but again, he's saying he doesn't even know if he's coming back or not. So we'll just have to wait and see how they progress with that. All right, next one comes to us from Kevin Bennett, who writes, I love Jennifer Lawrence, but her more recent movies and performances have been underwhelming. Is her star starting to lose some of its shine? I'll disagree with you on that, Kevin. Well, first of all, some of her recent movies haven't been doing that well, but there's not a lot an actor can do about that. All the actor can do is give the best performance they can give in the movie. Whether the movie ends up being good or not, that's up to the director, that's up to the writers, that's up to all the other pieces put together. All the actor can do is deliver the best performance they can. And let's look at a movie like Mother, which is just an awful movie. Awful movie. Brilliant piece of art, but as a movie, I thought it was awful. Maybe you liked it, and that's great. For me, it was awful. But even though that movie was awful to me, I thought Jennifer Lawrence delivered a hell of a performance. I thought her performance was great. I thought the movie was terrible, but I thought her performance was great. Red Sparrow. I'm not a big fan of Red Sparrow. I didn't think Red Sparrow turned out all that well. But I thought Jennifer Lawrence was actually quite good in it. And this is why all these producers and casting people are going to Jennifer Lawrence, because they know she will deliver a first-rate performance. Unless she's playing Mystique, in which case you can tell she just doesn't care about playing the role and just mails it in almost every time she plays the character. But other than that, in almost every movie I've seen Jennifer Lawrence in, movies I've loved, movies I haven't loved, I usually find that she delivers pretty consistently. And you see something different, that's cool, I respect that, but for me, her performances have never waned, and that's the key thing. All right, Kevin also follows up with, word on the street, Deadpool's 2 screenings have not gone well. What have your little birdies reported? Okay, so there's all these reports going around that this is this. I talked to somebody yesterday. None of that is true. None of that is true. None of these, the test screening audience hated Deadpool. Not true. Fake rumor. That some people are saying, and some of the reports, and you know what? I haven't even found any of the news outlets have been wrong about, like, the news outlets are simply saying that they are hearing people talking about this. And that's true. They are hearing people talking about that, but it's not the people who were at the screening. And, you know, sometimes I'll complain about news outlets, you know, making things seem, I think the news outlets have handled this pretty well, actually. All the ones that I've read, they're just simply saying, look, we're hearing from these people and these people that this happened. We weren't there. We can't confirm it. Take it with a grain of salt, blah, blah. I think they've been responsible in how they're reporting it. What I have heard is that is simply not true. That these rumors about things are any more true. Like, you guys heard me say this about the Justice League thing. Like, when reports come out that, oh, a secret screening happened and the audience gave Justice League a standing ovation, I said BS. Don't believe that, because anybody that was there wouldn't talk about it. Don't believe it. And then when they came out and say, oh, there was a screening of Justice League and people are saying it's absolutely unwatchable. And what I said BS. Don't buy it. I said, is there a possibility that's true? Sure. But I don't deal in possibilities. I deal in probabilities. That's my saying in poker. I don't deal in possibilities. I deal in probabilities. Anyway, and to me, that was just BS. I do not listen to that stuff. Because anybody can get on Reddit and say, I just heard there was a secret screening of Star Wars Episode 9. They haven't even shot Star Wars Episode 9 yet. Yes, but they've done a secret screening. And I heard that the audience all did cartwheels and vomited with excitement that it was so good. Anybody can write that and then run with it. From what I heard, those reports are completely bogus, that it's not true. So, and hey, look, again, I wasn't there. I wasn't at the Deadpool screening. I'm not even 100% sure there was a Deadpool 2 screening at this point. I mean, maybe there was, maybe there wasn't. I don't know, but I wasn't there. So take everything with a grain of salt. All I'm telling you is that what I have heard is that is simply not true. And again, I wasn't there. I can't tell you that's true. I can't tell you that's a certainty. Not at all. I'm simply relaying to you what I heard, just like everybody else is relaying what they have heard. And what I'm hearing is something completely opposite from what other people are hearing. So what's the truth of it? We're not going to know until Deadpool comes out. We're simply just not going to know. So that's the most I have to offer on the whole thing. Let's see. Next one comes to us from Shakar, who writes, never doubt Spielberg. Hype went through the roof. I mean, I'm telling you, man, I am so excited to hear those reactions. And it's not just that it's good reactions, the specific reactions that people are talking about. The specifics of what they're saying made them love the movie so much. Those are the things that are making me excited. Those are the parts that are getting me really hyped for it. Let's see. Chris Bradford writes, thoughts on Bruce Almighty and Evan Almighty. Well, I thought Bruce Almighty was great. Evan Almighty, not so much. I think Steve Carell probably regrets. There are moments in it that it's really cute, but it didn't make, I don't know why they suddenly went to Evan. Well, because Steve Carell was becoming a big star, and that's why they went to Evan. But yeah, not so big on Evan Almighty. KW Garrett writes, fresh question. Where's the new Infinity War trailer? Just kidding. Yeah, every single day. When's the next Infinity War trailer coming? Very funny, KW. Let's see. Ethan Hunt writes, hey, John, why isn't inflation considered... Oh, okay. This is a question I've also been asked about 40 times, and I've answered it many times. But, Ethan, clearly you haven't heard me answer it, so I'll read the question. Hey, John, why isn't inflation considered when saying what movies are most profitable? I mean, there's other aspects, but the bottom dollar is still the bottom dollar, right? Also, Inhumans is the best TV show, hands down. Just kidding. Very funny, Ethan. Look, I have said this before, and I'll say it again. When it comes to trying to compare box office and how a movie performs and how many people go out to see a movie over different time periods, there are about a dozen to 24 different factors and variables that you could take into consideration to adjust those numbers. One of those is inflation. However, you can't just pick and choose which single variable to try to apply to make those adjustments and then ignore all the other variables. You either take them all or you don't take any. And you just accept that the flat line is what you're going to go with. And I think that's the best way to do it. If you take inflation into consideration, let's put it this way. When the first Star Wars movie came out, it made this. However, if you apply a principle of inflation and blah, 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 it actually ends up being this. Okay, fine. But if you're going to do that, then you don't get to throw out all the other variables. Like the fact of the matter is, okay then, well now you got to take into consideration that when the original Star Wars movie came out, only about 100 movies came out that year. As opposed to today, where like 600 movies come out. You got to take that in consideration. When the first Star Wars movie came out, there were not 300 television channels and networks competing to keep people at home instead of going to the theaters. Do you take that in consideration? When the first Star Wars came out, there was no internet creating buzz and doing this and doing that. Do you take that into consideration? When the first Star Wars came out, there wasn't a multi-billion-dollar industry with the home console gaming industry that is competing for people's entertainment dollars, buying their game systems, buying new games, and staying at home and playing their games. That's a significant thing. Are you going to take that in consideration? When the first Star Wars movie came out, there were only X number of movie theaters around. Now you have movie theaters that have 16 screens in them per location. Do you take that in consideration? My whole point on this whole thing has always been, you don't get to cherry pick which variable you want to apply and then just brush all the rest of them away. Because there's tons of factors, legitimate high-ranking factors that go into what has affected the trends of how many people go out to the movies, when they go out to the movies, and how often they go out to the movies. Is inflation one of those things? Yes, it is one of those things. But there's a ton of other variables as well. So we either adopt a mentality of, okay, we're going to look at the box office totals and we're going to take these top 10 variables into effect, or we take none of them and just go with a baseline dollar value number and just leave it at that. So, I mean, also, you're going to say, well, when Star Wars came out, going to a movie only cost you $3. Now it costs you $19.50, depending on where you live. Do you take that into consideration? I mean, so there are so many variables to go into that you could just devolve it very quickly into a nonsensical discussion before you know it, and all of a sudden it gets out of control. So, no, I don't believe in applying inflation because that ignores all the other variables that go into it as well that could massively affect it. So anyway, that's just my position on that. All right, I got time for like 2 more questions, guys. If I don't get around to your question a little bit later today, I got a special supplementary video going up. That's all the questions that I don't get around to today and all the questions I didn't get around to yesterday on yesterday's episode of the John Campea Show. So that'll be going up a little bit later today. So don't worry, if you've sent in a live chat already and it doesn't get answered, it will get answered a little bit later this afternoon. All right. Jordan Boo writes, have you seen Jack the Giant Killer from 1962? Every time I bring it up in conversation, nobody knows what the hell I'm talking about. Count me in. I thought you were talking about the Bryan Singer movie. I thought you were talking about the Bryan Singer movie for a second, because that one I saw. not so good. Even though I'm a big Bryan Singer fan, not so good. So no, I haven't seen it. Perhaps you should suggest it on the Stardust app. Jump on the Stardust app and suggest it and tag me in that. Brett writes, "Hey John, huge fan. So just watched the Thor Ragnarok commentary with Taika Waititi and it's hilarious. What are some of your favorite commentary tracks?" One of my all-time favorites is actually Mel Gibson's director's commentary track of Braveheart. It's actually very insightful. Listening to him, it's almost like you're sitting in a classroom as he's talking about it, and I really enjoy that one. And then I like all the different commentary tracks. Again, I don't like the prequels, but the commentary tracks on the prequels are actually great, and they have several different ones. And as well, of course, the commentary tracks on the Lord of the Rings films. Those are always really, really good. Let's see. Christopher sends in a super chat. Thank you, Christopher. Aaron writes, Netflix adding Casino recently has me way more excited for The Irishman. Pesci is an all-time great, and I can't wait to see him drop some F-bombs again. Yeah, Casino is magnificent. Again, though, I have my reservations about Casino, or about The Irishman. There is a reason why every studio passed on it. And that makes me nervous. Then seeing Netflix pick up that Cloverfield movie, it's like, it's going to be released on Netflix instead of the theaters. Woo! And it's like, then I watch it and it's like, oh, that's why they didn't put it in movie theaters, because it's not that good. So I'm a little bit nervous. How on earth you can be nervous about a Martin Scorsese movie with Robert De Niro, Joe Pesci, Al Pacino? How the hell can you be nervous about that? It's almost inconceivable, and yet here I am nervous about it. I have my doubts it's going to be good. It sounds ridiculous, but I have my doubts it's going to be good. I guess we're going to have to wait and see. All right, guys, that's all the time I have here for today. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of the John Campea Show. Listen, guys, don't forget, jump down to the comment section. Leave your thoughts on any or all the topics that we discussed here today. Remember, when you're doing that, we're all film fans together. And when you get into these great debates and discussions and arguments with each other, just keep in mind that we're debating with fellow film fans, fans who are on the same team as us. So just make sure you're having your discussions in a civil, passionate way, because we just want to treat everybody in such a way that we make everybody glad they're film fans. Also, guys, don't forget, follow me on Twitter, simply at John Campea. A simple way to follow me there. I do an awful lot of tweeting. Of course, go to the description below, download the Stardust app, and listen, guys, the people who really make these shows possible are my Patreon supporters. Do me a favor, if you enjoy watching my programming, head on over to www.patreon.com/John Campea. Find out what it means to be a Patreon supporter, how being a Patreon supporter keeps these shows on the air, and also what benefits there are to being a Patreon supporter. And then maybe you'll be a Patreon supporter too, which would be awesome. All right, guys, that will do it for me for today's installment of the John Campea Show. Thanks so much for joining me. My name's John Campea, and until my next video, bye-bye.